Former President Donald Trump stepped into the limelight yesterday and gave a rambling one-hour press conference from Mar-a-Lago. He went on about many topics. In fact, hashtag Trump meltdown is trending. Let's watch.
She's a radical left person at a level that nobody's seen. She picked a radical left man that is, he's got things done that he has positions that are just not, it's not even possible to believe that they exist. He's going for things that nobody's ever even heard of. Heavy into the transgender world, heavy into lots of different worlds.
Then there was this rant about, quote, asylum, which the Lincoln Project seized on.
Why is it that millions of people were allowed to come into our country from prisons, from jails, from mental institutions, insane asylums, even insane asylums? It's a mental institution on steroids. That's what it is. When you see the people that are coming into our, these are institutions that are being emptied out, not in South America, all over the world, including South America, all over the world.
And last but certainly not least, the former president compared himself to MLK.
If you look at Martin Luther King, when he did his speech, his great speech, and you look at ours, same real estate, same everything, same number of people, if not, we had more. And they said he had 1 million people, but I had 25,000 people. But when you look at the exact same picture, and everything's the same because it was the fountains, the whole thing, all the way back to from Lincoln to Washington, and you look at it, and you look at the picture of his crowd, my crowd, we actually had more people. They said I had 25,000, and he had 1 million people, and I'm okay with it because I liked Dr. Martin Luther King.
Here was the reaction from Meghan McCain on X. She posted, Vice President Kamala Harris is going to win. So I will start by saying that I do think the Trump campaign needs to have better message discipline. All of the talk about her race and whether she identifies more as Indian or Black was a distraction from the fact that when you look at polls, including the ones that show Kamala Harris up by 1 or 2 percentage points, Trump wins on the issues, especially the top issues for voters, immigration and economy. The only one that Kamala Harris typically leads on is abortion. He also is ahead in the swing states. So just stick to the fundamentals, stick to the basics, and we don't need to be doing the hour-long sort of meandering press conferences, especially when you have a debate coming up. All of these qualms about her record or how you feel the state of the country is can be easily handled in a debate or even in just a more controlled setting. This seems like maybe an attempt for them to kind of dampen the enthusiasm that's been coming out of the Democratic Party for Kamala, and I'm not sure that it worked in his favor.
I completely agree. I think Donald Trump is used to the old adage from 2016. The campaign had that sign in the campaign offices, let Trump be Trump. But when you let Trump be Trump without Steve Bannon and without these strategists that are in prison or have been completely pushed out for different reasons, Donald Trump, left to his own devices, is an egomaniacal young child who can't stand the fact that Kamala Harris now has this enthusiasm and is dominating the press cycles. And so he has to go up there. I mean, he gives speeches, hour-long speeches, 2-hour-long speeches. This press conference was not just long and meandering, but he couldn't keep his thoughts together. And when he did, it was really unhinged. And I think, I don't know if it's because he doesn't have a strong team around him anymore. I don't know if it's because they're just letting him do or say whatever he wants to do. I don't know if it's because Eric Trump is advising him now. But you're right. If he sticks to the basics, he's going to have a much better path to winning. But again, that could change when the Harris-Walz ticket comes out with their platform and starts to talk more definitively about immigration and the economy, because I do think that we have a winning ticket when it comes to those issues. But that should be played out on the debate stage. That should be played out in the campaign. Letting Trump do what he's doing right now, not a winning strategy. I'm going to guess Steve Bannon wouldn't support this one.
The thing with Trump and his long press conferences or even rallies, what I think is interesting is that the tone of this one was very different than what you see at a Trump rally.
Right.
The Trump rallies are very exciting. He's quite funny. He can be very charming at them. And this one was simultaneously long, but also almost boring, even when he was talking about things that would sort of like whip up his political opponents. But yeah, I just didn't love it.
You know, and there is something to be said about feeding off of a crowd. He was being interviewed, I believe, yesterday also about the crowd sizes, and he'd said, you know, they're lying about Kamala Harris's crowd sizes. You know, you didn't talk about my crowd size last week, which is true. He did have a decent-sized crowd last week, but the one that, you know, most recently was not that large. This is what hits him. He gets so defensive about how many people adore him and how they're praising him online and how they're attacking him. But if you don't do that in conjunction with talking about the issues, I mean, you could let Trump do that a little bit and get away with it and keep the base excited, but he has to talk about the issues. He has to expand the base. And this, to me, seems like the campaign is not focusing on expanding the base, expanding into different demographics. Doubling down with J.D. Vance is a prime example of this. I don't think any sophisticated political strategist would be advising him to do this. You know, you can't just focus on Trump's most loyal audience. You have to go out there and win votes. You have to talk about issues that appeal to middle American voters, on the fence independent voters, you know, folks who might not be voting on abortion. I think that's going to be the critical issue, by the way, and I'm glad you mentioned it. He has to go outside of what his comfort zone is. And I don't know who's pushing back. I mean, do you know who's advising Donald Trump right now?
Well, I mean, his campaign managers are Chris LaCivita and Susie Wiles, but I obviously am not in there. I don't know who decided to actually do this press conference. But I will say, you know, on the J.D. Vance question, there's been a lot of reports claiming that Trump is unhappy with J.D. Vance, that he wants to get rid of him. I don't think we should put any stock into those. From what I hear, Trump is quite happy with Vance. He's doing a really great job fundraising for the campaign. He had this really viral moment earlier this week where he, you know, showed up in front of Air Force Two. He says, "Hey, that's going to be my plane, and I'm here taking questions from the media. Where is the Democratic nominee doing the same?" And he kind of forced her hand, because then the next day she does go to the press scrum and she takes, you know, 3 or 4 questions before jetting off to her next campaign event, and then announces that she's going to do a sit-down media interview by the end of the month. I think that was one of the most effective bright spots for the Trump campaign, basically since the Democrats swapped out their candidate.
But be careful what you ask for, because she appeared in front of the press and did a great job. And
well, she took like 3 questions about Trump where she said, yeah, he sucks, and then walked away.
Well, those are the questions that were asked. I mean, that was stalkery. Let's be real. It sounded, on our side, it appeared very desperate. It appeared stalkery.
How is it stalkery that their planes happen to be at the same airport?
He walked over to her plane and said, "That's going to be my plane someday." And
he walked over to the press that was staged.
In front of the plane with Kamala Harris, not his plane. That's how desperate it looked. He wants attention so bad that he has to run over to the other side to try to get the press's attention, because that press didn't show up for his plane. I mean, he has opportunities. He could have done a press conference. Instead, he tried to seize in on a woman's moment. On the vice president's moment.
Gosh.
Well, that's true.
Are we making it a misogyny thing now?
I think it is misogynistic, just like it was when Donald Trump stalked Hillary Clinton on the debate stage. That was creepy. It doesn't play well to women, and they need women to win.
Okay, I mean, the idea that he, in this political strategy moment of pointing out how she hasn't talked to the press, he's doing it because he's a woman, I think is pretty tired and absurd, and there's no evidence for it. But I don't think it looked desperate at all. I think it was a smart way to turn the fact that she has avoided the media around on her. And I don't buy the idea that she's going to magically cement her support when she talks to the press or when she does the debate. We know historically that she's actually been quite bad when she's off of a teleprompter.
She's been great in debates, though. I mean,
how do you figure?
In the Democratic primary, I mean, she had one of the most viral moments in the Democratic primary.
Yeah, calling the guy that she ended up.
Fair enough. I agree, but it was a good debate performance.
And then the immediate debate after that, she had her campaign destroyed by Tulsi Gabbard, who was polling at 1% on her record as San Francisco DA and California AG.
Let's talk about Tulsi Gabbard's record. I mean, Tulsi Gabbard, she basically is a correspondent for Vladimir Putin at this point. So, you know.
Okay, let's not call people Russian stooges or whatever because they are anti-interventionists.
Oh, because she went there and met with him. It's fair. Okay.
So meeting with Putin makes you someone doing his agenda?
I think at this phase, when you have a friendly meeting and you're not a Congress member and you're a correspondent on Fox News and you're echoing all the talking points and there are Russian bots propping you up, yeah, I do think it's pretty bizarre that she is becoming a weapon for somebody else. Rather, if she was a Democrat running in the Democratic primary, then maybe talk about Democratic policies. Instead, she was using the Democratic Party as a primary as a weapon to take on other Democrats and to weaken the Democratic primary.
She was a Democrat long before she ran for president in that primary, but I think even if
she left the party.
Even if you, well, yes, after she ran for president, but I think what's interesting about that talking point that Tulsi Gabbard is this, she's a Russia Putin apologist because she doesn't want our working class kids going off to sent to die in a war for a foreign country.
That's not why I said
that
it.
even if you believe that she's not a good politician or that she has policies that you disagree with, isn't that all the more embarrassing then for Kamala Harris that she got so handily defeated by her on the debate stage?
I think she attacked her, and it was a good attack line. But again, we're 4 years later. Kamala Harris is the vice presidential nominee. She's going to be prepared for a debate with Donald Trump. Let's focus on Donald Trump and Kamala Harris.
Yeah, I hope you're right, but we're going to see. I don't think that her history in debates is a positive one. You think it is. But the good news is that on September 10th, we'll be able to see for ourselves.
Can't wait.
All right. More Rising after this.